Hey there everyone, and welcome to another version of Hope Daily. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. Hopefully you've been able to tune into church over the weekend, and if not, you can catch up on our YouTube and our Facebook page. Today we are going to be in 2 Samuel chapter 9 for our Hope Daily, and I've entitled this passage Compassion for the Disabled, because this is the passage about Mephibosheth, where David shows empathy and compassion and love and kindness to this guy who is crippled in both feet. So let's get into it and let's just see what the word has to say and how we can be encouraged this morning. If you're going to be watching, say hi in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your reactions as we kind of go through it together. So it says in 2 Samuel chapter 9, David asked, "Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" So David is thinking about Jonathan, who's now died. He's this kind of unofficial brother that he had, really, and that he just wants to show love and kindness to anyone that's part of his family. And he shows. And David shows a great deal of affection for anyone that's part of really Saul's house or Jonathan's house, because he just recognizes that God's hand was on their house at some point in time, and so he just wants to extend kindness. He wants to extend love, and that initially is just a great example for us that day by day we should be looking for opportunities to show kindness, looking for opportunities to show love and compassion and grace. And I know that sometimes we can be a little bit self-focused. Our minds can just be wrapped up in all that is going on in our life, and we don't pay a lot of attention to other people's as well. But David is not like this. He wants to extend kindness. Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They came to him. They called him to appear before David, and the king said to him, "Are you Ziba, your servant?" He replied. The king asked, "Is there no one still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" So he recognizes that he's extending God's kindness, not just his own. Ziba answered the king, "There is still a son of Jonathan, and he is crippled in both feet." "Where is he?" the king asked. Ziba answered, "He is at the house of Makir, son of Ammiel, in Lo Debar." So King David had him brought from Lo Debar, from the house of Makir, son of Ammiel. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth, your servant," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." So David wants to extend kindness to Mephibosheth, and he calls him in. Mephibosheth is probably fearful, is probably afraid, worried what's going to happen. Worried that he's morning, Jamie, by the way, morning that he's going to face David's wrath, or he's going to get punished for being part of Saul's family, because there was war between the house of David and the house of Saul. But David says, no, I'm going to show you kindness, and in fact I'm going to give you all the land that belongs to your grandfather Saul. Your grandfather Saul. So he's going to restore all of the land that once belonged to him and give it to him. And it sounds like Mephibosheth doesn't really have any land. It sounds like he doesn't really have anything. He's living in someone else's house. So it looks like he doesn't even have his own house, or he doesn't have his own accommodation. He's been supported, and he's living with someone else because he's crippled in both feet. He can't really work. He can't really maybe do much for a living, especially in those days. And not only that, but David invites him, "And you will always eat at my table." He's inviting him to eat at the king's table. He's inviting him to come and eat with royalty, which is just so awesome. Then Mephibosheth bowed down and said, "What is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me?" What is your service? What is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me? And that just shows what Mephibosheth's attitude was about his own life, about his own disability, about his own crippled feet. He sees himself as a dead dog. He sees himself as one who is no good for anything. Who can't be used. He's useless. He's just he's just a burden to other people. He sees himself as a dead dog, and when we read that, we're kind of just filled with such an empathy, such a broken heart, compassion towards this guy and to anyone else. And my heart just goes out to anyone else who struggles with a severe sense of disability, that maybe you're crippled in some way, maybe you're maybe you've got a disfigurement or a disability, or whether it's kind of physical or in any other way, then my heart goes out to you, because I'm sure maybe at you times you feel that it's just really hard. You feel that maybe the world's not geared very well for people who are disabled, that you have to navigate all different, you have to navigate the world, don't you, in a world that is built for people that aren't disabled. And my heart goes out to you, because, and I'm sure it's really, really difficult. And I think it's really good for those who are able to emphasize and to think and to be concerned and to take notice of how it might be difficult for those who have less ability in some areas. But it just shows that this guy is just, not living, having to live with someone else. He sees himself as a dead dog, and it's just so painful. Melissa says, surely that's how society at the time treated him. Yeah, and they probably would have. Yeah, that's right. So, I think society at the time would have treated him as a dead dog, as useless, as good for nothing. Certainly in Jesus' day, by the pool of Siloam, I think was it, that people used to lie by the waters, just who were blind, who were crippled, who had leprosy, and it was just like an informal hospital. So how come David didn't know about him before? I don't know. Maybe because these were quite large families, so people had kids and kids and kids. David himself had like 10 kids or so. So maybe it's quite a large family, really. So maybe that's why. I don't know. Then it says, then the king summoned Ziba, and also because maybe also Melissa, why he might not have known is because he probably wasn't active in many other areas. If you read before, it was Ishbosheth that took over Saul's reign when he died, and he got murdered. So Ishbosheth got murdered in chapter 4, and he was Saul's son. So Saul had plenty of other sons who could succeed after him. But, someone who was crippled in their feet just wouldn't. It just wouldn't happen. They just wouldn't really do much, and they wouldn't really go out anywhere. So in that way, also people wouldn't really maybe know about them, because they wouldn't be active and and engaged in society like people are able to do now. So. Then verse 9 it says, then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, I have given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him and to bring in the crops, so that your master's grandson may be provided for, and Mephibosheth, grandson of your master, will always eat at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. And again, that just shows that a duty to care and serve and support for those who are less fortunate, whether that's a physical disability or whether that's some other kind of deficiency in life, that those who are able, should serve and support and should, enable the welfare of others. So Ziba and his sons are tasked with the challenge of farming Mephibosheth's new land to bring in the crops and to give him a place to live, to give him food to eat. Then Ziba said to the king, your servant will do whatever my lord the king commands his servant to do. So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. And then in verse 13, Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at the king's table, and he was crippled in both feet. And just to kind of finish off, I've just got this amazing image of Mephibosheth, who's kind of crippled in his feet, so he can't walk, he can't really do much. But yet David invites him that he continually eat at David's table, he can continually eat at the royal table. And I think about this, when David comes to eat at the royal table, in those days they'd be sat down low, the table would be low, they'd be sat on cushions. But even if they were sat on chairs, like we do in today's dining, his disability wouldn't be seen, his disability wouldn't be noticed, because everybody would be sat down. It would be a level playing field, and we just have this amazing, beautiful picture of Mephibosheth being invited to dine and invited to come to a place where his disability isn't an issue, where his disability isn't seen, it's covered up, it's hidden because everyone else is sat down. No, you might go into a room and you might see people sat on chairs, and one person might not be able to walk, but you wouldn't know because they're just sat on a chair like everyone else is sat on a chair. And we have this image here is that God is extending grace and compassion and kindness to this guy who is disabled, and and inviting him to come and sit to eat with David and to eat at the royal table, where his disability is hidden, it's blotted out, it's not an issue, and that's just, I don't know, it just rings so much a sense of compassion and grace in my own heart, that God, cares, that God empathizes, that God extends compassion and kindness to those who are disabled and hurting in some way of life, and that is a kindness and a compassion that we need to exhibit as well. So yeah, so that's just really encouraged me, guys, and make sure that that our outlook, that we are always being concerned for each other's welfare. Hey, not just for those who are physically disabled, but anyone that's just finding life hard, finding life difficult at the minute, and that we extend compassion and kindness, because God is compassionate, kind to us. So hopefully that's an encouragement. I think Jamie will be with you tomorrow for the next passage. So have a great day. God bless, and see you later.